Hello, you're on the channel Ruslan Belov. Today we'll discuss the situation in the world and in Ukraine as of April 7th, 2025. A tremendous number of events have occurred today, so let's get started. Before we begin, I would sincerely like to ask you to subscribe to the channel. Your subscription helps support its growth. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed. We'll begin with the Zaporizhzhia direction. Over the past day, another batch of videos from Bobry FPV drone operators has been released. In these clips, which have been published for the third or fourth consecutive day, we can again see around 10 to 20 episodes of Russian operators destroying Ukrainian armed forces equipment in massive numbers near settlements such as Kamenskoye, Plavny, and Stepnogorsk. These videos have been coming in for 3 to 4 days straight, indicating that the Ukrainian side has concentrated a truly enormous force of units here. At the moment, the Russian army is destroying all Ukrainian military equipment in the area. Once again, everyone is asking, is Ukraine preparing to launch an offensive, or is Russia gearing up for one? Certain pro-Russian sources note that the settlement of Kamenskoye is already semi-encircled. From the west, the settlement is surrounded, or rather cut off, by a partially dried-up reservoir. To the south are the villages of Kianitsia and Lugovoy, while from the east, Russian units are gradually advancing from Lobkovoy. Kamenskoye is in a semi-encirclement, and Russian commanders and soldiers in this sector report that they are currently awaiting orders to begin assault operations toward this settlement. The Russian army is also gradually preparing the ground for assaults on Orakov and Novoandreevka. In these frames, we can see Russian artillery strikes targeting Ukrainian forward positions on the southern outskirts of Orakov. These strikes resemble, of course, an artillery preparation phase. Next, we move to the South Donetsk direction. Several key settlements are located here: Bogatyr, Novopavlovka, and Shevchenko. Let's start with frontline adjustments. Today, a significant number of cartographers, both neutral and pro-Russian, have noted Russian advances from the direction of Berlatskaya. During this attack, Russian forces managed to secure a foothold in the outermost tree line directly in front of the village. Let's see how the maps have been adjusted. Initially, most mapping services showed this configuration, but by the end of April 7th, the majority of cartographers confirmed Russian control over this tree line. Essentially, this is a direct strike position toward Shevchenko from the northeast. Some neutral and pro-Western analysts note that with this advance, the Russian armed forces have taken control of a lithium deposit located near Shevchenko. We may soon see the first objective confirmation footage. Shevchenko is a critical settlement because numerous logistical routes pass through it. Its fall would first lead to the collapse of Ukrainian defenses in Volnoy Pole, allowing Russian forces to straighten the front line and advance northwest toward Velika Mikhailivka. Now, let's move to the Bogatyr sector. Today, pro-Ukrainian cartographers continue to, let's say, surprise the public. In their latest updates, they show that the village of Rozliv is firmly under Russian control. Ukrainian sources do not dispute Russian control over Rozliv. However, they still claim that the village is in a sort of encirclement. At the moment, all fields and tree lines around the village are either under Ukrainian control or in a grey zone. According to Ukrainian reports, Rozliv is something like a resistance pocket behind their forward lines. Well, we'll see how events unfold, but pro-Russian experts note further advances by Russian units, with combat possibly beginning for the southeastern part of Bogatyr. As for geolocated footage, we continue to receive objective strike confirmations targeting Ukrainian positions in this village. Next, we move to the Pokrovsk front, where many important updates are coming in. The key takeaway is that Russian forces have finally stabilized the front line on the salient between the settlements of Udakshne, Kotlina, Novoselivka, and Pashana. The area has been secured. The Ukrainian armed forces suffered setbacks during recent counterattacks and have now been forced to retreat to more defensible positions, likely to regroup and prepare for a possible Russian offensive. Let's go in order, starting with the village of Uspanovka. Today, both Ukrainian and pro-Russian sources have published a large amount of objective footage confirming full and firm Russian control over this village. Some clips show drone strikes on Russian forward positions. Just a few days ago, these areas were considered contested. Recall that on April 4th, the Russian Defense Ministry confirmed in its daily report that Uspanovka had been fully cleared and secured by Russian troops. And already today, on April 7th, the Russian Ministry of Defense has also published this video, where we can see numerous episodes of the fighting for this village. Let me remind you that the battle for Uspanovka lasted approximately 3, if not 4, months. Even last year, Russian units managed to reach this village, and here, Ukrainian forces put up the fiercest resistance on the entire Pokrovsk front. Now, Uspanovka is under Russian control. There are also reports that Ukrainian units have completely withdrawn from the village of Solonoye, and the Russian army has regained control over all tree lines and strongpoints between Uspanovka, Novovasilievka, and Solonoye. Additionally, some pro-Russian experts report advances by Russian units in the eastern part of the village of Udakne. If these reports are accurate, the Russian army currently controls the entire eastern sector, with fighting now shifting to the center. Essentially, Russian forces hold up to 30% of the village. There are also reports of frontline stabilization along the railway south of Kotlina. For now, we won't discuss the northern part of Kotlina. It's difficult to assess the situation there. The settlement may have been completely destroyed, and some fighting might still be ongoing. However, the railway itself is fully under the control of the Russian armed forces. Further reports indicate that Russian assault units have fully secured the village of Lisovka, located southeast of Pokrovsk and south of Mirnograd. We are increasingly receiving geolocated footage showing FPV drone strikes on Ukrainian forward positions even further north, effectively between Lisovka, Mirnograd, and Pokrovsk. This suggests that Russian forces are gradually advancing toward these settlements. Next, we move to the Toretsk-Chasiv Yar sector. Over the past day, the main fighting has unfolded along the Siversky-Donetsk-Donbass Canal. Today, Ukrainian sources have published footage of artillery strikes on Russian infantry that managed to cross the canal and land near Ukrainian positions. These strikes were carried out by the Ukrainian armed forces using missiles and cluster munitions. It's unclear whether Russian troops managed to consolidate their positions, but based on objective footage, we've updated the map. We can see that the Russian army continues to gradually push Ukrainian forces back from the entire Siversky-Donetsk-Donbass Canal, establishing a stable and powerful bridgehead for further advances toward the town of Kostiantynivka. Now, a few words about Chasiv Yar. Fighting continues in the central part of the town, and today there are reports of Russian advances there. Recall that around April 5th, after stabilizing the front line, Russian forces began tightening the noose around Ukrainian units in the center and slowly advancing. By the end of April 6th, the first geolocated footage confirmed Russian progress. Several buildings on the very outskirts of the central district were taken. By the evening of April 7th, full control over the western bloc, as well as the western and northwestern parts of Chasiv Yar, was established. Currently, we see the Russian army continuing its offensive. The main objective for Russian units now is to push as far as possible along Dniprovska Street. If successful, they will tighten the encirclement around Ukrainian troops trapped in central Chasiv Yar. Even with this limited advance, the remaining corridor for Ukrainian forces is no more than 700 meters wide, effectively a suicide run for any attempted evacuation, rotation, or breakout. This situation suggests that, in all likelihood, within the next few nights, Ukrainian units will be forced to abandon central Chasiv Yar entirely and fall back to more defensible positions near Mykolaiivka, Podolsk, or the Shevchenko district. In other words, the battle for central Chasiv Yar appears to be nearing its conclusion. Now let's move to the Lyman and Siversk sectors of the front. As you can see, there is significant activity here, though this has been ongoing for quite some time. Almost every week, we receive dozens, if not scores, of geolocated strikes, artillery, drones, and glide bombs, targeting the area between the settlements of Siversk, Serebryanka, Hryhorivka, Bilohorivka, and Verkhnekamianska. However, there have been no major adjustments to the front line. This suggests that Ukrainian forces have concentrated substantial forces in this sector, allowing them to dig in deeply. Currently, the Russian army is focused on clearing and destroying forward strongpoints, supply depots, and other key positions. likely in preparation for a potential large-scale offensive. Next, we turn to the Lyman-Borova sector. The most important and interesting developments are coming from here. Let's start with the biggest news. Today, the Russian Ministry of Defense announced that Russian forces have fully cleared the village of Kateryniivka. This small settlement, located near Lipov, Redkodub, and Nova, represents a major breakthrough in Ukrainian defenses. If we look at the network of Ukrainian strongpoints and trenches in this area, Russian forces now control roughly 70% of them. Losing Kateryniivka leaves Ukrainian troops dangerously exposed in open fields with no prepared defensive positions. If this advance continues, Ukraine may be forced to retreat all the way to Oskil, Izium, or even Sloviansk. Additionally, reports indicate that Russian forces have re-entered the village of Torske, just south of Yampolivka. Even more significant, just before recording this update, highly reliable sources reported that Russian forces have fully cleared Torske as of April 7, 2025. If confirmed by the Russian MOD, this would mark the official start of the third battle for Lyman. After Torske, the next objective is Zarekne, where fighting is already underway, followed by Lyman itself. The outcome of the battle for Zarekne will determine how soon the fighting spills into Lyman proper. Borova direction. A new Russian offensive. Fighting continues near Nadia, held by Ukraine's 3rd Assault Brigade. Russia has brought in heavy artillery, thermobaric Sontsepek systems, and MLRS strikes to soften Ukrainian positions. A new assault could be imminent. Notably, Ukrainian sources report that General Mordvichev, who oversaw Russia's successful Avdiivka-Pokrovsk offensive, has been placed in charge of this sector. This suggests Russia is preparing for a major push toward Borova and Lyman, likely making this area the next major flashpoint in the coming weeks. North Kupiansk, Russian gains and uncertainty. Russian advances continue here, acknowledged even by pro-Ukrainian sources. Deep state maps show expanding grey zones, contested areas, on the Ukrainian-held side of the Oskil River, larger than the territory Russia currently controls. This indicates heavy fighting and confusion in Ukrainian lines, with Russia concentrating significant forces. Kondrashivka's northeastern outskirts are now marked as a grey zone, suggesting fierce battles for control. Northern Front, Belgorod and Sumy directions. Belgorod direction. Pro-Russian sources claim full control of Demidivka, but no visual confirmation yet. However, Sumy direction. On April 3rd, Russian forces launched a decisive assault. By April 4th, they broke out of the forest and secured Sovetskaya Street. By April 5th, they advanced to Kolkhoznaya Street, confirmed by geolocated Ukrainian airstrikes. By April 6th, they pushed Ukrainian forces out of Lesnaya, Oktyabrskaya, and Lenina streets. As of April 7th, Ukraine reportedly holds only Sadovaya and Zavodskaya streets, meaning Hueva could fall entirely within days. Oleshnya is now under attack, leaving Hornal as the last Ukrainian-held village in the area, though no assaults have begun there yet. Final thoughts. Lyman and Borova are the next major battlegrounds, with Russia preparing for a decisive push. Kupiansk remains volatile, with Russian forces probing weak spots. Northern advances, Hueva, Oleshnya, suggest Russia is methodically clearing the border zone. That's all for now, friends. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more updates. Take care.